you been there yet, Phil?
Where?
Mamma Mia's.
About 4 times.
You didn't take any of us, what's that about?
Probably not gonna go back.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Muscatine City Council March 1st meeting. Linda, will you please do the roll call?
Council members Spread,
Present.
Harvey,
Present.
Rockert,
Present.
Saucedo,
Present.
Brackett,
Present.
Fitzgerald,
Present.
Malcolm.
Present.
7 present, 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We appreciate your attendance. We're going to start right along with tonight's agenda. And we have an addition before we get to number 4. We have a request to amend the agenda for tonight's meeting, March 1st of 2018, amending the City Council agenda for this meeting to include an additional resolution under item 11I for the utility franchise fee. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to the agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Spread. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The request is approved with all ayes. Now we're on number 4 of tonight's agenda, communications. Is there anyone here who would like to speak about something that's not currently on tonight's agenda? I already know there's a few people. Let's start with Mr. Greg Jenkins.
Whoop.
Yes, our guests at home are having a hard time hearing us with the new microphones. So if everyone tonight could please lean forward and speak into their microphone when they're speaking so that the folks at home can hear us.
We'll try to do that.
Thank you.
Even Mayor, Council. So I'm Greg Jenkins with the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And we're here tonight to make it official that the Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce and Industry supports the referendum that will be before the voters next Tuesday to renew the local option sales tax of 1 penny. This is not a new tax. This has been in place since 1994. I believe this will be the 5th time we've renewed it. We share this tax across everybody that visits the community and us, and to me, it makes perfect sense that we ought to renew this. We have come a long way in the sewer separation project. The community's done an excellent job of ensuring that gets done. The renewal of this should take us to the end of that, which is an awesome thing. There's a lot of work to get done, and it's getting done. And it's also important that we not lose sight of the fact that if this isn't optional, this work has to be done. And so if we chose not to fund this, to support this referendum, we're going to get to pay for it. We'll do it through property taxes, sewer fee increases. There'll be interest that will have to pay on bonds that have to be issued because it isn't optional that it gets paid. So we ask the voters of the community to support this next Tuesday. I'd also suggest, if that's a problem for you, to go to the county administrative office because you can vote absentee now through Monday. So that's an open option to you, and please come out and support this next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for coming. And if anybody has any questions out in the community about the local option sales tax, please feel free to give me a call, give Greg Jenkins a call, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about this. Is there anyone else? Mr. Sales?
Good evening. I'm John Sales from the Muscatine Trails Committee and here to present an award to the Mayor and Council. I guess Jim is going to hold a picture here. We've done this before in a different life, so it should go just fine. Okay. Oh, you think so? All right. Okay. On January 16th, 2018, ceremony was held in the Capitol Rotunda in Des Moines, where the city was awarded a plaque by the 1,000 Friends of Iowa for having the best 2017 project in the transportation and complete streets category. The organization has an annual program to recognize cities and towns for their efforts to advance sustainable communities across the state. Our winning entry was a 4.5-mile Kent-Stein Park to Deep Lakes Park trail completed last fall. Just a little bit of background. The 1,000 Friends of Iowa was founded in 1998 to focus solely on promoting reasonable land use in community, state, and federal development decisions. In 2002, the 1,000 Friends established an awards program for communities. It recognized projects in 12 different categories as a way for the organization to express the fact that smart land use and sustainable communities are more than just constructed buildings. According to the 1,000 Friends of Iowa, our project, and here I quote, connects key recreational amenities within the community while building pedestrian-friendly connectivity, creating safe bike-to-work routes, reducing vehicular traffic, promoting healthy living, and paving the way for ever greater development that are now on their way at Deep Lakes Park. Muscatine scored high in efficiency use and management of resources category, as the entire trail is built on recycled asphalt pavement used as a granular base for the final surface. The judges also scored our project high as the selected route skirts farmland as opposed to consuming it. The trail location also opens natural areas to the public. While the project planning timeline was long, I think the Trails Committee started discussing routes back in 2002. The trail could not have been completed without the help of a large number of organizations and individuals in both public and private sectors. Thank you all. I want to personally thank Randy Hill, Jim Edgman, Bill Haig, Steve Dalby of the city's project development and construction management teams for the many hours of effort on this undertaking. Also thanks to Mike Fisher of Impact 7G, who nominated the project for submission. Many thanks to prior Muscatine mayors, city councils, and staff who supported the plan for the 15 years it took to get the trail built. Mayor and council members, it's my pleasure to present the plaque from the 1,000 Friends of Iowa to you for a 2017 Best Development Award for Kent-Stein Park to Deep Lakes Park Trail Project. This is certainly an award that we can all be proud of.
Thank you to everyone involved with this project. I know our community members will enjoy it for many years to come and do it every day. Thanks again. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to council about something not currently on tonight's agenda? Hearing nothing, we're going to move on down to the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes items 6A and B, items 8A through D, items 12A through F, and tonight's bills totaling $2,983,052.34.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Saucedo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is approved with all ayes. We have a couple of public hearings tonight. The first public hearing concerns the proposed amendment number 1 to the city budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th of 2018. This resolution will amend the 17-18 budget to the revised estimate amounts considered by the City Council during the budget review process. This includes amending both revenues and expenditures to the currently estimated amounts. Amendments also reflect updated capital project construction schedules. Now is the time for the public to comment. Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved, John.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Spread with a second by Councilman Saucedo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries with all ayes. Our second public hearing tonight, we're going to have a presentation on, but first I'd like to share that the public hearing concerns the proposed adoption of the city's budget and certification of taxes for fiscal year 18-19. The amounts included in the public hearing notice and a budget adoption resolution reflect the budget amounts approved by the City Council during their budget review sessions and are in the format required by the state of Iowa. The final budget documents must be filed with the state on or before March 15th of this year. Prior to any formal action by City Council, a public hearing is required. Now is the time for the public to comment, and we're going to move along with the presentation.
Okay, this is an overview of the results of the budget, kind of a total entity-wide thing and a summary of the key things that were considered during the budget presentation. Greg and I are kind of tag teaming for this. The first slide, the total expenditures are operating and capital project expenditures for the year, about $61.5 million. Revenues, $52.7 million. The difference there is because we're using some of the accumulated fund balance. The largest part is use of the transfer of a portion of the transfer of jurisdiction funds for the Mississippi Drive Corridor project, as well as expenditure in FY 18-19 of some of the bond issue proceeds that we're issuing in the current fiscal year. There's no new debt issues in FY19. Total property taxes, $13,837,000, and we're maintaining the same property tax rate at 15.67 cents per thousand evaluation. These are the kind of overall pie charts for where the money comes from, and this is the total amount including capital projects. So revenues, the $52.7 million. The largest parts, property taxes are about 26% of that, $13.8 million. Charges for services, just over $15 million, 29%. And that includes most of the charges for services in the city's enterprise funds, sewer fees, refuse, landfill, transfer station, transit, and a number of other charges for services. The other categories are shown there. Road use taxes, about $2.9 million. The commercial reimbursement, $634,000. Local option taxes, $2.7 million. And the other categories, licenses and permits, use of money and property, other revenues, TIF revenues. But again, it's an overview of entity-wide budget for the year. And the next slide is how were the funds used? And again, this is broken out into categories. The largest category, upper left, capital projects. 27% of the budget is for capital projects. $16.574 million. Kind of going across, public works, $2.8 million. Public safety, another significant part of the overall budget, close to $10 million for police and fire, 16% of the overall budget. The other areas, community and economic development, 2.8 million, culture and recreation, the various park and recreation facilities and operations, and also the library and art center. Another 6% of the budget is for culture and recreation. Housing and urban renewal, over 2 million for the housing programs. General government, 5%, 2.9 million. Debt service, principal and interest on debt, just over 4 million. And then enterprise funds, 16.7 million. So that's, again, the entity-wide budget. And it's compilation of the individual budgets that we reviewed during all the budget meetings. The city tax rate, as we said before, we're maintaining at that 15.67 per 1,000 valuation, and it's broken out by the various tax levies, the 810 for the general fund, a very small amount for transit, special revenue funds for employee benefits, tort liability for insurance costs, and then the debt service levy for principal and interest on the bond issues. The tax rate has been maintained at about the same rate for the past 9 years now. There was 15.77 for 2 years, and then we've actually maintained the 15.67 now for 7 years. Some of the other slides, it has a lot of information, but I think we'll kind of pick and choose what we talk about. You can review the other slides when you have time. Trying to think, again, the maintaining the tax rate was done by changing various tax levies up or down, allowed us to maintain the same tax rate. And that's shown on the next slide. The actual increases and decreases are shown. Just the next slide kind of comments on the property tax rate. The owner of a home worth $100,000 with the rollback this year, they would actually be paying $20 less in property taxes. Commercial and industrial, the rollback has remained at the 90%. Multi-residential properties are continuing to be rolled back. And they would pay $100,000 property would pay $59 less in property taxes with their rollback. And we want to note that this is only the city's portion of the property tax rate. The county and school is added together to get the total tax bills to residents of the community. And that's shown on this next slide. The city share of the City of Muscatine's residents is 39.5% of the total tax rate. The schools are 37.6%, and the county 23%. And these are based on the current fiscal year's rates because we don't have the schools and the counties finalized yet. The next slide shows how we've been able to increase the fund balance. In recent years, the fund balance policy shows that it's a minimum of 16.7% of general fund expenditures. Before the policy was amended, we were actually at 13.6% and have been able to incrementally increase that. And the budget for FY19 is at 21.3%. The next slide, we noted during the budget discussions that police and fire pension rates are going up, and as well as IPERS. The budget includes a 3% cost of living, and that's what's in the union contract. The budget includes an increase of 2.21 in full-time equivalent positions. There's a new assistant city engineer position added this year. 75% of that is expected to be funded by charges out to capital projects. There's also a half-time custodian position for the public safety building, and that is replacing the contracted service that we have had. And then there's a 0.71 increase due to the move to the new library building. The next slide again goes through subsidies to outside agencies, and this was what was proposed and approved during the budget discussion. That includes the Chamber, the Humane Society, Senior Resources, and then MCSA for their services for the homeless prevention program. The budget continues the 25% allocation to the CVB, and it's estimated at $120,000 for next year. Budget continues to fund equipment, vehicle and equipment replacements, as well as computer replacements that are needed. The budget does reflect a reduced estimate for ATE revenues since the University Avenue and bypass intersection camera was turned off. So we had budgeted $700,000 in the current year for revenues in total for ATEs. That's been reduced to $350,000 for FY19. And to replace those funds, the budget includes an increase in the utility franchise fee from the current 1% to 5%. And that allowed the city to continue the same level of services that the city has been providing. As we'll talk about later, there are some uncertainties going forward with the remaining ATE revenues as well as the state backfill. But the budget was done to position the city to address those challenges, maintain existing service levels, and get us in a good position to address any future challenges. The budget finds a balance between the overall city tax rate, maintaining a sufficient level of city services, and providing departments with the resources and equipment they need to perform their departmental functions in an efficient manner. The budget does include more building and facility improvement costs. These are actually funded from bond proceeds for the deferred maintenance, and also $880,000 in total for deferred maintenance type projects in the park system. In the enterprise funds, the budget does include rate increases in several of the enterprise funds: the sewer, collection and drainage, refuse collection, boat harbor, and the golf course. And for the golf course, it's only in the cart rental fees. The other enterprise funds do not show rate increases. All the enterprise funds have positive fund balances at the end of this year. Last year, we still had a planned deficit in refuse collection because of the phase-in of the automated refuse collection program. But the landfill fund continues to have a positive balance. The transfer station does as well. The next slide kind of summarizes the various capital projects that are included in the budget. Again, $16.574 million. $6.5 million for the Mississippi Drive project, about $1.7 for other street-related projects, $105 for the new sidewalk program, $3.2 for the West Hill Sewer project, $3.3 for the high-strength waste receiving station at the Water Pollution Control Plant, $372,000 for the West Side Trail, and that's the local portion of the cost of that trail. That's part of the CAT grant, and CAT grant funded donations, and a grant will fund the remaining costs of that trail. $310,000 for airport improvements, $500,000 that will go through the city to the county for the Deep Lakes Park cabins, that it's actually a county project included with the CAT grant. $100,000 to replace the restrooms at the Weed Park Rose Garden, $120,000 for soccer field number 2 improvements. We had $321,000 for deferred building maintenance costs, and $25,000 for various other costs. So a lot of varied capital projects are included in the budget and will be noted throughout the system, the city's facilities. Again, the budget is an overall plan, and it will continue to provide services that citizens expect. It'll maintain a good general fund balance and provide for infrastructure improvements to continue. Next slide, this is kind of our cautions. There's still some uncertainties with some of the revenue. Actually, the third bullet point, a decision was made to approve the budget based on known conditions at the time the public hearing was set. And that's what we have traditionally done in the past. So at the time the budget was set, we were expecting to receive the amount of the backfill from the state. They're discussing that at the state level, and there's some uncertainty whether they will begin to reduce that, but a decision hasn't yet been made. The remainder of the ATE revenues, and again, the budget includes that $350,000. So if the worst case, if those funds were all eliminated, that is close to $1 million of revenue that would be lost to the city. And about $880,000 of that directly impacts the general fund. So if that happens, we do have a good fund balance that could be used interimly till we make the adjustments we need to make. I guess that's, the next page, it kind of summarizes the general fund balance policy, where it states, except for extraordinary circumstances, unassigned fund balance should not be used to fund any portion of ongoing and routine expenditures of the city. And those extraordinary circumstances include loss of revenue, such as the ATEs and the state backfill. But in the event that we do need to use that unassigned balance for a short-term solution, the city will need to evaluate how it can be addressed. And that's part of this was done last year. We've always had the utility franchise fee out there as part of the way to address it, and that's why it's included in the proposed budget. So yeah, the different revenue categories are defined in the last two slides. But overall, this is a very good budget. It provides for a lot of services and projects, and it was, I think, a very good budget development process this year.
Thank you, Nancy. Does anybody have any questions?
Just a comment. Process starts in November, goes through March, as we all know. I'd like to thank city staff, the finance department, Nancy, Cinda, everybody that worked on putting the materials together as well. It's a lengthy process, as well as the council and the mayor for your commitment to those budget meetings, many nights in February, kicking off in January. So it's a long process, but I think one that results or has resulted in a good budget again this year.
Thank you. Hearing no other comments,
Move to close.
Do you have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Harvey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries with all ayes. We're on 11 now for the budget, or for the agenda. Budget's on the mind. We're on 11A, referring back to the resolution approving amendment number 1 to the 17-18 city budget that we just had in the public hearing. Is there a motion now to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert, with a second by Councilman Harvey. You guys' names are awfully close. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Any discussion? Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11B. We have a resolution approving the adoption of the budget and certification of taxes for fiscal year 18-19 that we just had the presentation on. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Malcolm with a second by Councilman Spread. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Saucedo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11C. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution adopting the restated plan for the 2013 Muscatine Housing Urban Revitalization Area. It is proposed that the 2013 plan be amended to update the legal description of the property added in the restated plan, updating the abatement schedule for the multi-residential property classification, and updating the abatement schedules for the blighted and historic property classifications. A public hearing was held on January 18th, and no petition was received requesting an additional hearing. It is now requested that the restated plan be approved and adopted. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Was that you, Councilman Harvey, or Spread? We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. Any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor. What is the primary difference between the two plans?
Tax abatement and TIF?
No. The revitalization area.
So two things that we're asking council to consider tonight. One, we're amending the urban renewal area to add one area.
Okay.
And then we've, as discussed, modified the plan to add, for example, multi-residential, which we did not have in the tax abatement plan before as a category for which you could receive tax abatement.
Okay.
And then we improved, divided, so you have a, get away from the microphone, you have both a plan and then you define an area. And we have several areas that would qualify for tax abatement within the city of Muscatine. Those are listed on the city's website, and I believe we have a PDF that shows them here tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
You have additional information you're wanting to add? Or you just wanted to show the map?
I just wanted to show the map.
Okay.
The areas in pink are the expanded areas that we're proposing.
Okay.
You'll see a slight green one, trying to point it out to you, up in here. This is where we just annexed a small piece of property to accommodate the WDS, or white distribution. So that's the changes we're suggesting, the one basically in pink. And the other one would be where the green area is.
Tax increment financing, that'll be under the urban renewal plan.
Right.
So this doesn't have any, there isn't any resulting lowering of property values in the areas?
This is
As a
so
result of
the
this.
same application that you've seen before the council before under the consent agenda. New construction it's not automatic. You have to
apply.
either new construction or remodel over a certain percentage. We did reduce the amount for homes in the blighted district to 80,000, I believe was the amount, rather than the original 125,000, I believe is what it was originally.
Right.
So that you can better or more easily qualify for an abatement in those areas
Okay.
that need it most.
What I guess I thought what you were asking, Councilman Fitzgerald, was as a result of naming these neighborhoods blighted, are their property values going to be less because they live, is that?
Well, I just wondered if it was going to make have any effect on property values being.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
About-
There are no new blighted districts. This is the existing blighted district, and blight, if we recall, is simply a term of art that's
Yeah.
used by state code that allows us to implement these tools and better tools for those areas that qualify or within those districts. So unfortunately, it's just simply a term of art that per state code that allows us to implement these tools in
Good.
those areas.
So this is the same program we've had with Claremont.
No, right,
Or very
except we added the
similar, but we
multifamily,
changed a couple
multi-residential, and we reduced the amount, the requirements, reduced and expanded the requirements. So we
Right.
reduced the eligibility or level, and then we increased the abatement that's available for those folks
Okay.
as well.
And of course, we've also added commercial to the abatement program.
And I think I asked this before, but there's no way we can change that name so it doesn't have that name.
No.
Sorry.
Word?
No,
I mean,
there's another
maybe
word that's less desirable now.
Yeah.
improving
yeah.
areas or something, or,
We've been through that.
okay, all right. Just
Yeah,
wanted to
it's
verify
a
that.
state identified word, not us.
Yeah, okay.
Any other?
Use the word, we can't take advantage, so.
There you go. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11D. Presented for City Council's consideration is the first reading of an ordinance amending ordinance number 92403-0513, designating an area of Muscatine, Iowa as the 2013 Muscatine Housing Urban Revitalization Area. Is there a motion to adopt the first reading of the ordinance as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Brackett. Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11E. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution declaring a parcel of city property as surplus and offering said property for sale. A public hearing was held on January 18th of this year to declare said parcel as surplus. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Saucedo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11F. Presented for City Council's consideration as a resolution authorizing the sale of surplus city property legally known as the westerly 123 feet of the southerly 30.6 feet of Lot 47 of Terrace Heights addition to the City of Muscatine, Iowa, to Muscatine Downtown Investors. This sale is part of an exchange agreement approved by council in October of 2017. A public hearing regarding the sale of said property was held on January 18th of this year. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Brackett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11G, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing for March 15th of 2018 on the designation of the expanded, consolidated Muscatine Urban Renewal Area and on Urban Renewal Plan Amendment. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11H, we have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution setting the date for a public hearing and additional actions on the proposals to enter into a general obligation loan agreement and to borrow money thereunder. The city's next bond issue is scheduled for May of 2018. This bond issue will fund projects recently completed, currently underway, or to be constructed in 2018 or 2019. The bond issue estimate is $4,090,000, with $4 million for project costs and $90,000 for estimated bond issuance costs. This public hearing will be set for March 15th of 2018. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11I. We have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution setting a public hearing for March 8th of 2018 on increasing the utility franchise fee for Interstate Power and Light Company from the current 1% to 5%. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Malcolm with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11IB, and this is the part that we added to the agenda tonight. We have a resolution approving and adopting a revenue purpose statement for the use of expenditures of revenues from the natural gas utility franchise fee. In addition to the public hearing that is required to be held prior to the adoption of the ordinance amendment to increase the franchise fee rate, the city attorney has advised that the city needs to adopt and publish an updated revenue purpose statement for the use of the proceeds from the utility franchise fee. Is there a motion to adopt and approve the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman Spread. Councilman Saucedo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're now on 11J. Presented for City Council's consideration tonight is a resolution approving the non-union pay plan for 2018-2019. This pay plan includes a request to remove the position of Assistant Housing Administrator and applies the budgeted 3% increase to all pay grades. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Saucedo, how do you vote? Aye. Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11K. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a public hearing for April 5th of 2018 on the annual application for state and federal transit funds. Iowa Department of Transportation requires that we conduct a public hearing and publish notice of said hearing approximately 30 days in advance of this hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Next, we have presented for City Council's consideration a resolution approving a sidewalk or street cafe easement agreement for Avenue Subs. Avenue Subs is proposing 4 outdoor tables in front of the restaurant located at 113 Iowa Avenue. This outdoor dining has been placed in the same location for the past prior years. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Next, we have presented for City Council's consideration a request to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Dive Rescue International in the amount of $9,996.96 for the purchase of a Zodiac boat, motor, and accessories. The city has received a donation from Kent Corporation Charitable Foundation for the entire amount of this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11N tonight. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a professional services contract with Martin & Whitaker for the right-of-way survey for the Grandview Avenue project. This survey is needed for the design of the project to define the area that the project needs to be within. Martin & Whitaker was selected because of their familiarity with the city and the previous works that they have performed for the city. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Saucedo. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11O. Presented for City Council's consideration tonight is a request to authorize the issuance of a purchase order for compost removal. The Public Works Department has been looking for ways to dispose of the accumulated compost, mulch, and wood chips at the compost site located at the transfer station. Staff contacted local farmers looking for an interest in using it on their fields. Chad Eichelberger, who's doing business as Thompson Trucking, was the only offer the city received for removing the pile of compost at the price of $3 per yard for a total cost of $29,625. Staff are recommending that council approve the issuance of a purchase order to Thompson Trucking for the removal of compost and shredded wood. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fitzgerald with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion?
I had a couple questions on it. I think I know the answer, but I wanted just some clarification.
And thank you, Brian, for presenting at our bi-state meeting last night.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so with this, have we has the Parks Department gotten anything from it that they would be needing this year?
We are going to keep a pile of fresher stuff available for parks and for the public as well.
Okay.
Primarily, this is the larger mountain of material. It's been there for the last 14 or so years, and a lot of the shredded chips that we just can't find a market for anybody to take. So,
okay, that answers my question. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Are we loading this into their trucks with our equipment, or is they bringing his equipment?
He's doing everything. I believe he's loading it onto his equipment and hauling it away, and he's going to land apply it on his fields. And yeah.
Wow, that's a good deal.
That
Yes.
is. Brian, I do have a question. Could you explain to the public, the folks watching, what happens if we do nothing?
Well, if we do nothing, we run out of space to take more material. Is the ultimate issue that we're having. So currently, the transfer station compost facility takes yard waste, trees, basically anything that is compostable or organic at the facility. We have a compost pile that is mostly grass clippings and leaves that we turn periodically to make it into compost. That is available for pickup from the community. Anybody can come and pick it up. We'll also load it for you. So any type of trees and shrubberies that may be from storm damage or whatever, we also take those. When we get a large enough pile, we contract with a grinding company to grind that into shredded wood chips or mulch. And then we give that away to the community as well. The issue that we had with the storms that we had last year, just the increased volume that we had, the lack of people, I guess, wanting the compost over the past few years has just given us a amount of material that we have no place to put. It'd be very expensive for us to haul away. It's not the best type of material to landfill. We don't want to take up our landfill space with this material. We had talked about applying it to the field to the north where the pollinator park is going to go. But this offer came, and I don't think we can pass it up. So that's the benefit, is getting rid of that material so that we have. Also, when we get this material out of the way, we can come back in and regrade the compost area. I know if we get some complaints about how bumpy and potholed that area is because we don't have room to work to move things around. So once we get everything out of there, we can come back in there and regrade that, smooth out that lot, and start over again.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more question. What's the time frame on this?
He wants to start as soon as possible, so
Perfect.
Hoping next week.
Great.
Yep.
Brian, I know that the reason that we have such an amount is because of all the storms and stuff that we had this year, but I know we talked a little bit in the budget meetings about going forward, perhaps having it ground up into smaller pieces so the community would be more apt to use it up as we go.
Correct. We'll look into that when we have our next grinding contract. We still have a little bit of money left over in the budget to grind this year if we need to. And then our fiscal year 2019 starts in July 1, and we'll have more money in that budget to do that as well. So we'll work with the company that grinds to see if we can get a more appealing product, I guess, something that people might want to use more of.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The request is approved with all ayes. We're on down to communication from council. Councilwoman Brockert, do you have anything tonight?
I would urge everyone in the community to get out and vote on Tuesday for the local option sales tax. Whether or not you agree, please cast your ballot.
Thank you. Councilman Saucedo?
Yeah, I have a few items. I just wanted to, one, comment on the great work by staff and everyone that worked on approval for what we did for this year and not raising the taxes and being able to maintain that at 9 years, which is a great thing. The other item is we're starting to do a lot more work on getting some potholes fixed by the staff. I saw that quite a bit out recently in the last couple days, and thank you for that. And hopefully we can continue to do that more proactively. And the other thing is we're going to have a meeting on March 23rd to discuss some of the things on the riverfront. I will not be here. I have to travel that week, but I do encourage the public to contact us to make sure you send an email or, you know, try to give phone calls to your representatives and let us continue to be a voice and at least give you our input, or at least try to see if we can find something that will be a happy medium. And the last item is to make sure that we do get out and vote on the local option sales tax coming up. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Spread?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Councilman Harvey?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Malcolm?
Yeah, just a quick note, Your Honor. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of going to the traffic committee for their meeting. I was totally impressed by the professionalism, forward thinking. The team seemed to be able to pull resources and scenarios looking not just now, but in the future and anticipation. And I'm happy to say that I was totally impressed with them, and I'm glad we have them to help us do what we do. That was just unbelievable to see them working like a well-oiled machine. And my hat to go off to you guys. Appreciate you. Yeah, please make your voice heard. Vote. We'd like you to vote so we can help you keep doing what we do. And we need that sales tax to keep costs down but get the work done.
Thank you. Councilman Fitzgerald?
I just had one comment on the sales tax. I had two residents contact me, and they were questioning the wording on the ballot. They felt that the local option sales tax money from the city was going to end up in the county. And I assured them that that was not the case. But if there's anybody out there that thinks, has some differing ideas, you need to contact City Hall or call me if you want. But the money that comes into the city for sales tax, local options tax, stays in the city and is going to be used for infrastructure improvements. Thank you.
The sewer separation primarily.
Correct.
Councilman Brackett?
Yes, Your Honor. I actually, in regards to, we had a recent letter from the county separating an agreement for doing inspections. And so I wanted to kind of look into that. So what I'd like to do is make a motion that we create an ad hoc committee and compose that of 3 members of the council, in addition to 1 member from the Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to propose that that committee look at the permitting process, and basically to provide some checks and balances to see what happened, and do to help make sure that we're not creating any roadblocks in the community. I think that what we could do with that, and what I proposed that we do with that, is that committee then gathers data from, and this could be something that was decided in the committee, but at least 20 of the last commercial and industrial permits, and then up to maybe 100 of the residential over the past couple of years, to go out and actually survey those people and find out, do like a quality control survey, that type of thing, with how responsive was the process, how do you feel about the fees that were issued for that, were the services performed in a timely fashion, that type of thing, which could be finalized by that ad hoc committee. And once that survey has been completed, the ad hoc committee would then put together that information and come back to council with the results so that we could understand better what caused this to happen. And so that's the motion that I make, that we create that ad hoc committee.
I think we could do that with a consensus vote.
Well, I'll second it.
I think you need to put it on the agenda, actually.
Okay, then, so do I need to alter my
I think you need to put it on the March 15th agenda, or,
Yeah, you've got to publish that sort of thing.
Do we? Okay, that's fine.
I didn't think we did for an ad hoc committee, but
ad hoc committee is under city code. City council can create an ad hoc committee. It's not on the agenda, so I would suggest you put it on the agenda to take action.
Okay, so then I would ask for consensus to put it on the agenda to take action. Okay, then I'm going to ask for consensus to put it on the agenda for the next regular meeting.
And I guess part of my thing is this is in response to what the county did.
Correct.
That has nothing to do with residential in the county. It's all industrial and commercial in the county.
Right.
It might be an overkill having a ad hoc committee. I think we need to get just some basic information from the county on what the problem was as they see it. My understanding in talking with one person was that it really wasn't a group of people. It was one particular business that was having issues and making the squeaky wheel.
And I've received conflicting information since Monday, so that's why I figured it was best to move forward with a committee that can go and get that out, gather that, and then if they come back and find that we did everything we're supposed to do, then that, gives us, it makes us look better. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it that way, so.
You're talking 7 or 8 different permits for an entire year. It seems, I'd have to agree, I think it seems a bit overkill. For a process, I'd just simply like an explanation rather than taking action at a public meeting without providing any comment or notifying the city that there were any complaints. I'd like to receive an explanation from the county where we're sitting down and have, we've had staff has had a couple conversations with a couple of the supervisors. I'd like to at least receive some explanation. Which we did not receive ahead of time. Before we can take a look at anything, I think we need an explanation.
And
Well-
I would agree that we could ask for that, but I still make the request that we form this. So I'm going to request that we put it on the agenda, and if we've got consensus, then that's what I want to do.
I did receive a call from the chair of the supervisors and he indicated that it was not just one, but several businesses.
I've heard from 3 different of the commissioners. Each of 2 of them are on the same page as far as it turns out to be a dispute between how we're conducting ourselves with respect to holding our own on permit requirements versus the customer's perspective. And then there's one counselor that says, I've not talked to
Scott Sauer, the chair.
Yeah, I've not talked to the chair. That's what I was trying to think of the word. But that would be great if we had an extra month. But if the end of this month is what the deadline is, I'm questioning as to whether we can get any action to extend or whatever it is in order to take any action.
Maybe we could do it next week at the meeting then.
What deadline are we talking about?
At the end of March is when
30
our
days.
termination takes place. It's effective. If we move this out to the 15th and have a ad hoc committee after that and getting data, we already know all the data. I mean, I have it all right here. All the permits for the last 3 years. And values that we charged, we haven't, as far as the cities goes, we apply our rates. That's based off what the agreement was. And our rates haven't changed since 2005. So that's 13 years ago. So it's not a money grab, and that's been one of the comments made. It's not overly aggressive tactics on code enforcement, which is the same we do for everybody here in the city. It's just that the constituents in the county are not used to having the code compliance that they have now. And that's
Well, and that's where I'm gonna stand with my request, because I think that if we then include residential, if we also include, you know, things in the city, not just out in the county, then we're gonna get a better idea of the whole process, which in turn doesn't let the individuals like you're talking about necessarily color the whole thing one way.
Right.
So that way, if the people in the county are have an opinion that is very different from those in the city, well, then that gives us, you know, some explanation as to what may have occurred there. And it allows us to get an answer and get down to it and find out, you know, what happened there, what caused that. And I don't know if there's any way to reverse that.
And
but
we'd love to know that.
Right.
Because we're shocked Monday. This was out of the blue. We did not heard it, other than the dispute we have with one company. We've not had any other complaints or
Right.
heard any. And that's the point you're making, is that let's get that
yeah, let's
fleshed
find out.
out.
Let's
Data
exactly.
never
What I
hurts to
would
get data.
suggest then is if our mayor could send a letter to the chair and asking for an extension, so that any action we can take from a council perspective would have time to bear fruit. Because 15th is when you would get approvals, and then you would have to put the ad hoc committee together, which would gather data and things like that. So you want to be careful with too squeezing of a time frame.
Sure.
And I would request that the mayor send a letter to the chair of the county and then get an extension so that we could have that room, given that this was an all of a sudden kind of scenario.
Sure.
I have a question. Why do we have to wait till the 15th?
We don't. We've had other action on in-depth meetings before.
Okay.
It could happen next week.
Yeah, I'm like, why are we waiting?
I'm not at all certain that they're even willing to change their mind, let alone give us an extension. I think what I'm hearing you're asking for is for us to know if the services that we are giving to our community are what they need to be.
You know, I certainly don't disagree with Dave's request,
I
though.
will
I think
try.
that would be, I think that's a great idea, because if they see us taking action on it to try, you know,
They may.
to sort that out and
It
flesh out
certainly
those
doesn't hurt
details,
to ask.
then they may be willing to put a pause on that. I don't know. That would be great if they did.
So can we talk about committee for next week then?
Yeah, then we can put
Yes.
that on the agenda for next week.
Well, okay.
Right. I still think an extension would be
Oh,
helpful.
yes. I
Oh,
will
of course,
write a
that
letter
too.
and talk to
Yeah.
Mr. Sauer.
Request that too, but, you know,
Yeah.
it may not bear fruit, but we can still act.
No matter what the county does, I think it's still important for us to ensure that
Yep.
we're doing what we need to be doing.
We would love as a department to prove that everything we
Certainly.
did was above board and straightforward.
Yeah, I think your problem is the fact that it goes back to enforcement in the county.
Could you lean
Great.
forward, please?
Enforcement in the county previously has been a little laxed at times. And at one point, several years ago, they went from basically having 0 inspections to really put the hammer down, and the people in the county were complaining a lot, and the city looked really good at that point. And then it's kind of twisted a little bit. So I just think it's because if you talk with contractors, they will tell you whether they feel like they're getting good service. I personally have had the permits, and I have had no problem.
Well, of course you haven't, Phil.
Well, I don't believe I
We
get
put him under the thumb.
special treatment from the staff for permits.
Sure.
I know,
No, but
there have been complaints made to me, but, you know, I think that's probably normal.
To your
I
point.
used to get a lot of them, and then that's just dropped off with some staffing changes and so forth. It's made a lot of
There's
difference.
been a couple you and I've been on together with dealing with an issue.
And to your point, though, that's why I want to include stuff in the city, so that we're not having a one-sided observation of this that is only county. Because if it fits with what you're saying, then obviously that might come back negative without giving us the whole picture. So that's why I wanted to have a broader spectrum on that. So.
And it sounds like you welcome
We do.
an evaluation.
We do.
You know what,
Greg does.
anytime you do services, it's good opportunity
Yeah.
to ask your constituents for feedback.
Yep.
So, Mr. David, you say you have all this data, is it a big problem for you to make it online to us in emails?
In
So we
emails I can,
so-
probably.
So we can see it, well, I'm saying, I'm not gonna ask you to make copies, but if you can scan it.
Here's all the
in-
data.
Yeah. Well, we can read it, and, you know, I'm gonna point that out, I wear glasses, I'm just, so we can read it.
Maybe you can send it out.
That would be,
Before.
well,
I have all the information for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready, boom, you get
Right.
the package.
Dave has the
Sounds good.
data on the 7 permits. So what we're lacking are the complaints.
right.
We
And
don't,
that,
we don't know what the
Yeah.
specific complaints are.
Sure.
And before we can have an adequate discussion, I think we really need to know what the specific complaints are. We have the data on the 7 inspections. You know how, what the fees were, what the projects were, so on and so forth. What we don't know and can't evaluate and can't provide input on are the specific complaints
right.
that are.
And that's the
That's what you're
intention.
asking.
That are lacking.
That's what I'm asking. That's what the intention of this ad hoc committee would be to go flesh out those,
Right.
find out what
Absolutely.
they are, and also try and find, the exact opposite answer from people that had a perfect experience. I mean, we want to get the full spectrum to make sure that we understand, was it related to just one? Was it 2 that were really loud, and everybody else had, no problems at all? I mean, we don't know at this point exactly, like you're saying, we don't know because we haven't heard it. So that's the point of fleshing that out.
And like I said,
Finding-
the commissioners are 2 are saying, yeah, it was just one, and then you have another commissioner saying, oh, it's not just one, it's a
Sure.
bunch. And
So do we have consensus to put it on the next agenda? That's, I think, what we need to have here.
Be on the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. And then you can meet with the individual people and find out.
we're gonna have a round table, and you got everything, all the data and stuff to work from.
And they can go meet with them.
I've actually updated it to add 2 of the 3 more years to that data. So we have each year. And we just had a banner year last year because of the investments made by a lot of the companies that are not only in the city, but also in the county, and to their credit. So, yeah, last year seemed to be big, only because the amount of activity was so significant.
Sure.
And then you'll have that data.
Yep.
Sounds like we got a plan. Thank you, Dave.
So I will forward my notes to,
We're just
You?
we'll place it on the agenda
Okay.
for next week, for the formation of an ad hoc committee to review,
permitting process,
well,
or
it's actually the
permitting,
building
permitting
code.
issues, the permitting,
It's actually the building.
Inspections.
I guess that's what I'm concerned with, is we're gonna have a committee, and exactly what are we looking at? I'm still not clear. I saw the letter from the county, but, and you apparently have done some work on this.
I've just been busy this week, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm just trying to understand what we're pointed toward here. I mean, we're talking about a contract for services with the county. And admittedly, those, that business, whomever it is, whatever it is not in the city limits. So what are our priorities?
the priorities of this is to find out, if those complaints were valid, then that might also mean that we're not providing good customer service in town. But I want to see, it also, that letter, if it's not valid, which that's what I'm hearing, is that, that letter wasn't valid. If it's not valid, then, I would want to know why they, made that impression. So, to me, it seems like there's a lot of conflicting information on this. That's why I want to put this forward. So what I can do is, if it's going to be, if the item will be on next week's agenda, then I will draw out the specifics in much more detail. So that that way you know what you're voting on, and it's not because my intention originally was to have the committee form some of that detail, but I can put that together and have it very specific for you. Okay.
The committee can make their own goals and objectives and how they want to go forward. Is that what you meant? You were hoping they would come up with
Originally,
their
but I
own,
think,
yes.
Yeah, but if I'm gonna vote, I wanna know what I'm voting on.
right,
I
exactly.
need
And-
some basis for this.
Yeah, so I will clean up my wording
Appreciate
and make sure that it's got the specifics on there, so you know what you're voting on.
Did you have anything else tonight, Councilman Brackett?
I just wanted to comment also that I noticed all the potholes getting filled, so, and seeing them show up again and then get filled again, so thanks on that. I know, I will address, I know that there's someone, here right now that had mentioned a buckle in the street, and I don't know if I need to have you go up and answer anything, Brian, but if a particular portion of the street has buckled, and that's going to take a little bit longer before we can go in and fix that, I believe. So yes, and that is the case, just because of the weather, the ground temperature, and things like that. So that'll get addressed once those things are in order. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Staff?
Just a quick clarification, I heard March 23rd, it's March 22nd for Mississippi Drive.
My bad. Sorry,
No, I just want to make
Somebody
make
else
sure it
said
was
March
clear.
23rd today to me.
because I thought it was on Thursday.
Thursday, isn't Thursday the 22nd?
It's the 23rd.
Well, then
I
I
thought-
stand corrected.
Yeah,
But it's it, whoa.
Thursday.
And you are likely correct.
Oh, no, you're right.
No, it's 22nd.
No, it's
This
the
is 22nd.
It's 22nd.
Yeah. And I have,
Third's a Friday.
I have it already put in here. See?
I still won't be back.
I still won't be here. I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Uncontrolled urge. Yep, 22nd.
Yeah.
I just have a few things tonight. The Art Center has a wonderful display, People in Places of Iowa State. If you haven't gotten a chance to get over there yet, it's great. The potholes, just to touch on those, reminder to the people in the community that if you see potholes, you can go online. There's actually a spot on there where you can write it down, and they check that all the time, and they're working out there diligently on them. The compost site opens up on March 17th. I've had lots of people calling and asking me, hoping that it's gonna open up early because the weather's turned nice, so March 17th is great. Thank you to Dan Stein and his China Initiatives team for bringing the symphony to us last week. It was very nice for our community. That's all I have tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
That's a wrap.